Denizens author, who was at least vaguely remembered 70 years after her works first came out. From Margot's perspective, they were doing Harry a solid. From Harry's perspective, he was slumming it for the sake of a future career where he didn't have to gurn or caper even a little, save in service of the serious actor's art. By halfway through the first day of filming, taking a chainsaw to the lesser branches of Harry's family tree, they loathed each other with a polite and icy passion. It turned out that Harry's maternal great-grandfather, hitherto known to the family as a respected captain of industry and Conservative MP hopeful, had been neck-deep in a stock market scandal and had actually done time at Her Majesty's pleasure. This was unaccountably something that had never come up at the family dinner table, and Margot's expression of woeful sympathy had glimmered with gloating triumph. Harry spent that evening on the phone to the production company insisting that they cut or downplay it, hide it amongst the... except they had turned up very little else of interest in that part of the family, so the whole white-collar crime angle was looking mighty attractive as a crowd-pleaser. "It'll be fine," he told a succession of executives in tones between a grovel and a growl. "We're doing the book stuff tomorrow. Magda, Mary, Bodie, my sainted Gran. Bury it behind that, and maybe, just maybe, it'll be better than you imagine. You just wait." Because Gran had had a secret. All right, not a secret, because she'd told it to her sole daughter, Harry's mum. She told it to Harry, she told it to quite a lot of people at the care home and a number of medical professionals too. But that last drawn-out part of her life wasn't the way Harry wanted to remember her. A non-secret, then. A non-secret about her own mother, the great-grandmother neither Harry nor anyone else in the family had ever met. The mysterious woman whose stories, back in Magda's own childhood, had been the inspiration for the Underhill books in the first place. "Your great-grandma," she used to say, "was someone very special. She came to this country from somewhere where she was very important." And she'd touch her brow in a special way, and child Harry could almost see the glint of gold and gems there. And Magda had something of a Slavic feel to it, obviously, and Bodie wasn't necessarily their original surname. And, well, Harry wasn't actually saying that he was the rightful Tsar of all the Russias, but he had wondered. Not enough to actually put the legwork into investigating, admittedly, but why would he need to when he had the whole research team of How Even Me to do it for him? Even if that team was mostly a harassed-looking office junior called Mai, which unfortunate piece of nomenclature led to endless "How Even My" jokes from the rest of the crew. Mai was the only person on set who disliked every other human being involved even more than Harry. Ever the consummate professional, Margot's greeting on the second day was an actor's masterclass in how to sparkle for the camera while showing your colleague just how much you dislike him. At least today they were dealing with the good stuff. In their hearty air-kissing was the understanding that they would both mine today for whatever they could get out of it and then never have to see one another again. They were in the Oxford Story Museum for the shooting. How Even Me preferred to film in the attics of their guests' grand houses where they could pretend to unearth dusty old photographs of sainted ancestors undergoing privation or doing praiseworthy things. Harry's two-room flat was unaccountably missing an attic because the house had gone with Lisa along with most of the money during the divorce. However, the museum still had a wall panel about the Underhill books as one of its permanent exhibits. And probably the whole thing got waved through as mutual good PR that didn't have to impact on anyone's balance sheet too much. They positioned him in front of the display. There were a couple of first editions, the once bright covers faded, plus some stills from that 1973 animation, and a creepy little puppet from the Polish stop-motion of '87, which still featured in Harry's nightmares. With that as a backdrop, they did the preliminaries, the little interview sections where he reminisced fondly about Granny Magda, or Mary as her pen name had been. He even went so far as to mention the secret, those little hints she dropped about the provenance of our own mother. And he wasn't really expecting Margot to play God Save the Tsar and then crown him, but it was nice to have the whiff of it hanging in the air. And he relaxed and let his guard down, and then they brought out the box. "Harry," Margot said. And he'd wanted them to call him Felix. He wanted to start calling himself Felix instead of the god-awful, clownish Harry, that non-name he'd taken on and which he was thoroughly sick of. But he was Harry Bodie to the world, and to equity, and his agent...